Hello, everyone. It looks like we are live. From what I can tell, I think audio is going well. I'm going to wait until everyone lets me know that they can hear before I get going too far into this, because we know I have a history of talking for quite a while and finding out no one could hear anything. Let's see. Okay, good. Everything is good. So tonight I'm going to be working in Inktense. I'm going to be painting a dolphin tail. You can get this reference photo over at my website, lachri.com, and if you want to follow along with me. And I'm going to be, excuse me, allergies are an issue today, so I apologize. I'm going to be coughing and sneezing my way through this, I'm sure. But you can pick that up there. I'm working in Inktense. You can follow along in any medium you like. But I actually have a lot of Inktense questions that I've been seeing on Instagram here in the chat, so we're going to go through a lot of that as well tonight. Now, if you have any questions, you can leave them now. I'll be answering those at the end of the live stream, other than the ones that are actually Inktense related. We'll probably be talking about those during the stream. And what else do we have to cover? Oh, if you want to bid on this. Now, this I need to make really clear. The Inktense, they're not all light fast. Some of them are, a lot of them are not. So I don't normally sell my Inktense work because I don't know, especially when you look at the set here, the way these are set up, this would be very difficult for me to figure out which of these were light fast and which were not. So I normally, when I work with Inktense, I just go by whatever color I like, and then I sell prints. In this case, I asked you guys last week, some of you wanted to go ahead and bid on this, so just so you're aware, you want to make sure, I would definitely recommend frame this behind UV protecting glass. That's the best thing you can do for it. Do not hang it anywhere that it would be hit by direct sunlight. And I don't recommend that for artwork anyway. Artwork should never be getting hit by direct sunlight. So light fast ratings are under museum, what is it? The museum quality, museum lighting, museum something. Basically, no direct sunlight. So those are just things to be aware of. If you do want to bid on this, you can. The link is in the video description. You can bid over at my website. I believe the starting bid is $55. It is going to come in a black matte. This is a 5x7. I am working on 300 pounds, so this is different than the video description, what it says, but I'm working on 300 pound Fabriano Artistico extra white hot press watercolor paper. Not because I recently bought some, because I don't really buy their paper anymore, because they changed it and I don't like the newer ones, but because I have some left over, so I may as well go through what I've got. So that is what I'm working on tonight. And the alternative, my normal, would be my Arches hot press watercolor paper, but I didn't have any 300 pounds, so and I didn't get a chance to stretch it, so that is why we're going with this. Let's see. So yeah, Dolphin Soul said I'm ready to bid no matter what. So you, just so you're aware though, no, go lay down, bad cow. He thinks if I make a happy noise now, that is the same. No, you have to learn how the rules work for this. You don't just get to invite yourself. Let me fix the camera on you guys. Your camera isn't quite right for cow settings. Maybe that's a little bit better. Okay, so anyway, that covers the light fast thing. Now, I do want to go over, when it comes to light fast, a common question or common misunderstanding from people is, what is the difference between light fast and permanence? Because these are listed as being permanent. The difference between these and watercolor, that is basically what that means by permanent. When you put a layer of the Inktense down, I'm going to do a quick little demonstration of that for you. So let's say I'm going to go ahead. Wow, that is out of focus. Hold on, let me see if I can get this camera. What is going on with that focus there? There we go. Okay. Nope, it doesn't. What in the world? Hold on. I'm going to have to fix this. Focus. I need to undo auto, apparently, is the problem here. Oh, well, nope, that made it worse. Hold on. Hit the right buttons. Apply. Okay. There we go. Okay, now I should be able to do this. Also, we're going to take a quick break because apparently everyone felt bad, Tessa and Kirsten, which means we get two for, we've got 2 super chats. So now, look at Wade licking his lips. Do I get it this time? Do I get the super chat this time? Okay, we got a super chat. Come. You want a cookie? See, thank you, Tessa and Kirsten. You get 2 this time. You want 2 cookies? You got 2 super chats. See, thank you. I really need to get some more of these. These are your favorite. No, back up. You can't be that pushy. There we go. Oh, look how gentle you were this time, bad cow. You must really want the second super chat. Yeah, you didn't try to take off my hand that time. Wow, he's being weirdly gentle. He normally is just like chomp. I get bit, not hard, but like enough to be annoying all the time by the bad cow. Okay, say thank you, guys. Go lay down. Lay down. You can't just stand there and beg. You know the rules. Lay down. Good boys. Ooh, I don't like where I have my pencil sitting. If that leaf flops down, oh, I forgot my tea. Okay, so we got that done. I'm going to actually grab my drink really quick because I am not making it through 2 hours without a drink. Be right back. That's in the fridge. You guys are coming with me. I knew I was forgetting something. Okay, here we go. You want to see fat greyhounds? I do not, but their metabolisms are so fast, it's not even an issue. Okay, I am back. So now let me go ahead and do a little bit of a demonstration here. Hit the right buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and just take some water. And the water that I'm using tonight is distilled water. Since this is being made available for sale, I want to give this, and actually let's cover that first. So use distilled water or tap water. Normally with Inktense, I just use tap water because I'm not selling it. I'm not too worried about it. But when it comes to watercolor, water-soluble graphite, and in tonight's case, Inktense, because I'm breaking my own rule and selling it, I want to use distilled water because there is a lot of crap in our tap water, like a lot. And that can contribute to yellowing paper, or maybe the light fastness would not be as good because you're using, who knows what, they use so many different things in our water. So I use distilled water when I'm painting with my water mediums. Again, watercolor, water-soluble graphite, and tonight Inktense. Normally, I don't worry about it. If it's just like in a sketchbook or something like that, then I just use regular tap water. But for anything I'm gonna sell, I wanna go with distilled because I wanna give this its best chance to not fade. So what is light fast? Light fast ratings are what we use to determine how long it will take for a color to fade when in museum standard lighting or museum quality, something like museum something lighting. With Inktense, some are light fast, some are not. They're questionable as to which ones are which. It's hard to keep track in this sort of a palette, which ones were which, unless I wanted to separate them all, which I'm not going to do. So anyway, that is what the light fast is. Now, what a lot of people talk about is permanence. Now, these are permanent. That is not the same thing. What they mean by permanence, let me go ahead and load some. I've got a pretty purple here. So you can see I'm dipping the paintbrush in water, and I'm just going to mix that in with what is there. I'm mixing that with water again. So I'm using this like I would a pan of watercolor. I'm not taking the block and going directly onto the paper. So when I come back over here to the palette, let's move you out of the way for just a moment. I make my mark. So I'll leave that to dry. I'm also going to show you though what will happen if I were to take that color and just shade it in. I've got the pencil or the block itself, and I'm shading it. Now, this is a cool technique. I've used it before when I wanted to create a lot of texture, so I'm not saying don't ever do that, but I do want you to see what happens when you do. So here, if I just take water, let me rinse actually all of that off. So just some water, and I'll blend that out pretty well. Now let me dry both of those. I'm gonna have to color correct this because that is not what that looks like in person. These are really purple. Stay up there. Probably should have taped that for this demonstration. Now, if that is dry, this is not dry all the way. Actually, let me grab another paper towel while that sets for just a second. That would need to be dry all the way in order to be permanent. So that's one of the first mistakes that people make when they talk about that the color lifted off. It is dry to the touch right now. Let the paper cool. When the paper is cool, if that ink feels cold, and this is ink, it's not watercolor, it's water-soluble ink. If that feels cold to the touch, it's not really dry all the way. Make sure, I'm just waiting for the paper itself is too warm for me to be able to tell. You want to make sure that that is all the way dry. If not, it can reactivate easier. Watercolor will reactivate at any point, more so when it's slightly wet, obviously. But what happens is if it's a little bit wet and you go over it thinking that that has set, it hasn't set yet. It's not completely dry. And so that's going to be more likely to smudge out. It's a little cool as the paper cools off. But you get the idea. So if it smudges a little, that is most likely why. So if I take water over it, it smudges a little, not too much. If I did that with watercolor, it's going to smudge a lot more than that. But if I smudge over this, this is where you're really going to see the difference. This one will normally smudge more and be darker because some of the, when I went over it with a pencil, it's not, all those little nuggets, you can kind of see the grainy, gritty look. The pigment, even though I got it wet, it didn't reactivate all of it. So those chunks will continuously reactivate because it was never really blended in all the way. Whereas when I mixed it this way, it was blended more. So there is, it's like, see, now that it's been wet because it wasn't dry all the way, I'm reactivating that more. But and even when I've had it completely dry, it may smudge a little bit, not this much. Like I said, that one was still a little bit wet, but it's not to the extent that watercolor can lift all the way, whereas this, when it's really dry and it's really set and you didn't apply it with the block itself, but you actually mixed it separately, it really stays in place very, very well. I've had a few times have it smudge a little bit when I thought it was all the way dry, but it was pretty minor, no big deal to go over. So that's really what they mean by permanent. It's going to stay in place. They use this on fabrics, and people will paint t-shirts or shoes or whatever, and it's supposed to, I've never done that, so I don't know how well that works. I've heard people like it, I don't know, but that kind of gives you a better idea of what they mean by permanent. Now this is worse with it smudging if you use the pencil. So you shade things in with the pencil. I have never ever been able to blend things that I shaded with the Inktense pencil directly, blended enough that it didn't reactivate. I always have chunks in there that are just not all the way blended. The only way that I get things all the way blended is here in the palette, like I did the first time, you know, and let it dry all the way, that I don't have time to do tonight. But that should give you an idea of what it means, permanence versus light fast. Permanence means it stays put. It's not really reactivating, again, if you let it dry all the way. And I mean really dry, not just dry to the touch. And that's the difference that I think a lot of people are missing. When you touch it, if it's a little cool, that is not dry all the way. Mine was not really dry all the way. So anyway, hopefully that is helpful. But light fast is an issue of whether or not it'll fade. One more question about light fastness before we get going. Somebody had asked right before the live stream started. Annie said, oh gosh, it blocked the first comment, but she wanted to know if you put if you had watercolor down first, if putting Inktense on top would make it more light, make the color underneath more light fast. Well, Inktense is, not all of those are light fast anyway, so that isn't going to make a difference, but that's not how light fast works. Putting a light fast color, so let's use this as an example. Let's say I put a pink color down that is not light fast. It doesn't matter what medium, colored pencil, paint, whatever it is. I put that pink down. I put a semi-translucent layer on top of that is light fast. So non-light fast first, light fast on top. This doesn't protect this. That pink will eventually fade. So whatever color you put on top is going to look different because now it's over the white of the paper versus the initial pink, if that makes sense. It's not, this layer doesn't really do a lot to protect this layer because it's the pigment in there that is fading. It's not like some pigments, just when exposed to light, to sun, they just do not hold their color. It's the pigment itself that we're dealing with here. Now, that said, you can help that some by putting a UV protecting spray on it and framing things behind UV protecting glass. So those are definitely options if you're using materials that are not light fast. For me, I typically just stick with light fast materials if it's something that I'm going to sell. Okay, we've got a couple, oh yeah. Nick found the full question I was missing there. And yeah, she had asked, when using Inktense over watercolor mediums, will the Inktense protect the other product from fading, or will the other product compromise the Inktense permanence? So again, you're talking about a difference between light fastness and permanence. So now if you're saying, will it make the other color permanent? Maybe, not necessarily. There's so much water involved. There's just too many factors to say whether or not the Inktense is going to make it so that the color underneath wouldn't lift. What would happen is you're adding the Inktense that may lift some of the watercolor. I wouldn't mix the two. Like, I don't really see a benefit of, with maybe the exception of the Inktense white, which you'll see how I'm going to use that later tonight. I don't see the benefit of putting Inktense over watercolor. Like, I don't know why you would do that. It doesn't, my brain is not thinking of a situation besides using the white that would even be helpful. Okay. If this camera tonight freezes while I'm going, if you guys can, if Nick or Joseph, if you can message me, because I've been having problems with this all day. For some reason, this camera just keeps freezing, so I have to reset it, but I may not notice while I'm working. So, okay, finally, let's get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do on this one tonight, I am going to outline everything with, now this is going to be more stylized than what you see for the reference photo, because whenever I get into marine life, I always stylize that myself, or to my style, stylize it to my style. That's not redundant at all, but it's just how I do marine life. So I am going to come through and do some of my dark lines first, and I'm going to just use, actually, no, I want a darker purple than that. Now, what I like to do with Inktense is have a scratch piece of paper all the time. So when I'm picking my color, what it looks like here, and the same thing with the pencils, it does not look the same when you add water. So what I like to do is make a little test. Let's see which color I want to go with. Move these ones out of the way. I will do a little test sample or swatch, see which color I like. So let's see, how about you? No, how about you? No, not loving it. Oh, you know what? It may be one of these that I'm looking for. Or are you just black? You might just be black mixed with the purple on the brush. No, you are the color I want. Okay, come over here. I'm going to move this down here. I have no idea what color this is. Some dark blackish purple color. It's entirely possible. That's really just black mixing in with the color there. No, I think it really is a black purple. Okay, so what I'm doing is mixing that just like I would with a pan watercolor, thinning that with water, and I'm going to line everything out. Because when I do my wash with the Inktense, this is pretty much going to stay put. It's not going to move a whole lot, as long as I let it dry all the way this time. We're just going to line that. Now, it looks like I'm just going to have these heavy outlines. I'm going to shade these in later. I used a water-soluble graphite pencil to blend or to draw everything out so that when I blend this over with the water, those lines, the graphite lines, will blend out. And then we'll have some deeper shadows in here. So we'll just kind of map this out. Put everything approximately where it's going to go. Oh, my God. Let's make it so you can actually see. I really need someone in here throwing something at me. Okay, so all I did right there, wow, impressive, Lisa. All I did right there was line that out, but we're going to be doing that as we move forward here. The problem is the delay on the camera. When I get the notification, it's already been, I already screwed it up, so there we go. Anyway, now I'm going to make my water. Now my water is not going to be exactly like the reference photo that I'm just using as a loose guideline. Now the trick to making water look like water, you want to go long horizontal, short diagonal. So I don't want a whole lot of diagonal shapes in here. So see, short diagonal, long horizontal, short diagonal, long horizontal. And that is pretty true anytime I'm doing water. And I've got to be careful because of the way that I'm sitting for the camera. The camera is really in my way, so it makes me want to tilt. I'm going to have to keep backing up and making sure I've got that right. You don't want it to look like your whole water is leaning to the side. See how long horizontal, short diagonal. Long horizontal, short diagonal. And by doing this now, it makes it easier because when I come on top with my teal and my turquoise, I just glaze over everything. It makes it so easy. This stays put as long as it's dry. Or I should say this mostly stays put. Stays put more than watercolor. Now this photo, it came from, I think, Unsplash or Pixabay, I forget which one. And it was the entire dolphin, and his whole body was out of the water. He was doing, like, working with trainers. And his tail was up against water, but he was not in the water. His tail wasn't in the water. I just used that as a reference, and the water behind it as a general idea. That is all kinds of Photoshop to make it look like it's going into the water this way. So that is something you can do, because it can be sometimes really hard to find photos of dolphins and whales that are in the position you want. If you find photos where they're working with a trainer, you can take parts and make them stick out of the water like this. Like the entire dolphin really was out, but we made it work. In this brush, it is a number 4 synthetic hog-haired script liner brush. And I just not pushing very hard. I like the longer brush because I can load a lot of the ink in it and make a huge long brush stroke. If you used a super little, like tiny little bristled brush, what happens is you make a little line, time to reload, little line, time to reload, and you end up with something that looks really fluffy instead of these long lines that I can get with these brushes. Now the next tip I have for you on making water look shiny, making it look more realistic, is high contrast. So that's what you can see. I'm getting my darks in now, but you want your really dark darks right up against your really light lights. So when I put the highlights with the white, I need that to be super bright, and they'll look brighter if my darks are even darker. Now for the Inktense, I don't find them to be quite as picky on the quality of brush as watercolor. So I usually just use whatever I have for my acrylic paints, and which is generally generic brushes. I know I recently had my video talking about why I don't shop at Hobby Lobby or Michael's anymore, because I don't like all of the generic products, not problems. I like the generic paintbrushes though. So that is the one generic product that they carry that I actually like. And that's what I'm using here tonight. I'm going to use this purple to block in a bunch of these darker ones. Or darker areas. So let's see, we're going to come around here. Now I'm just going to spread this. Now here's where it gets challenging with Inktense versus watercolor. With Inktense, when that sets, I'm going to have a harsh line there. If you don't want a harsh line, you better blend that quick. The reflection on the tail does not need to be exact. He's got little lines going through, like little tiny little lines that look to me like power lines. I will definitely not be including those. I'm just using this purple for the shadow. You could technically use your black for the shadow too. My next tip for this is, let's say you needed a light gray. Well, there's no light gray in the set. Yeah, you just use black and thin it out with water and let the white of the paper make it more gray. You could also technically blend it with or mix it with the white Inktense block to make it gray if you wanted an opaque gray. Like let's say you were going up against an area that was already dark and you needed it lighter gray, then I would mix it with white to get that color. And after we're done with the lesson tonight, I'm going to be going over a couple of questions that came from Instagram, actually. One person wanting advice on getting back into art where she just doesn't feel creative anymore, feels like she wasted her money on art supplies, like life getting in the way of wanting to create. So I have some suggestions there. And then somebody else who wanted tips on growing their Instagram art page. So I'll be talking about that later tonight. He is not going to say purple. Don't worry. And right now it looks more gray. I'm going to adjust this after I get a little bit more. When I start in with a little bit of the teal, it'll help me figure out what needs to be adjusted color-wise. Okay. Now I am going to go ahead and start painting. Actually, I take it back. I am going to dry this. Nope, I'm not. I missed a spot. Hold on. I'm going to pay attention to what I'm doing is what I'm going to do. We've got a whole area here we want to darken up a bit. Let's get some of these more definite dark areas. This will all get toned down quite a bit when I go over it. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and dry this. And I'll show you what I mean by, even if it smudges a little, it's not a big deal because the other color, the pigment is so strong in these. The longer I wait here, the less likely it is to smudge out, even though it feels dry. So it can be quite deceiving. Oh, I put too much honey in that tea. I didn't even know that was possible. Let's see. Can colored pencil be layered over Inktense similar to watercolor? Kinda. Yes and no. I mean, you can. It doesn't stick as well as it does to watercolor, so it's not my favorite. I usually, when I use Inktense, do not do mixed media with watercolor because the watercolor, it just, whatever it is about the way the Inktense sets, it's almost too, it doesn't feel slick when you touch it, but it's like too slick for the colored pencil. It doesn't stick that well. Wax-based, I found usually will stick better, but a harder lead tends to more scrape the Inktense than really stick to it, whereas watercolor, it just full on sticks to it. So it's not my favorite mixed media at all. Okay, so it's not dry all the way. It's going to smudge out some, but close enough. So let's go ahead and bring these teal colors back over here. You know how I like my teal. So I'm probably, let's see, this one looks like it might be dark enough. I'm going to test just like I did before. Only hopefully this time I actually remember to move the camera. Ooh, oh my gosh, that's perfect. That is such the perfect color. Okay, now these, if you get the Inktense where it comes in these little, I don't know if this new ones still do because this is an older one, if they have these little whole containers, what I like to do is wipe those out with paper towel. And this is where I mix my little batches. But this will all reactivate. So being that it has old color in there, if I were to go over it, whatever the old color is would just mix in with what it, like, see how it just wipes up, like no problem. So I want to make sure that's clean before I start mixing a new color into one of those little sections. And it doesn't matter how long that's sat dry, it is going to reactivate. Only over plastic. Plastic or glass or anything like that, it'll reactivate. If it's on fabric or paper, it's pretty much going to stay put. So that's close enough that it looks like there's a little bit of a green tint in there, so that wouldn't matter if that mixes. I'm using a round brush now. This one is just as a 10. I don't even know what brand this is. Something generic, I'm sure. Now, when you get Inktense, you will often get them and the blocks are broken in pieces like this. That is not worthy of being upset about or sending them back, because no matter what you do, these break. They're very brittle. They break super easy. And actually, I'm going to just put that to the side and use a smaller section of it because it's easier. I will normally break mine on purpose just because they're a little bit easier for me to stick to the side here. Let me clean this off my fingers. I have ink all over myself now. Okay. So I am going to start with these darker areas. And it doesn't really matter if I start with the light or the dark here. It makes no difference. I'm going to do the dark and then I'll wash the light over both. Okay, and I'm just going to pick a few spots. It doesn't really matter which one's light, which one's dark. I do want to go around that tail nicely though. And then smooth that out as I do these lines. If I have streaks, I want to make sure those streaks are more horizontal so it looks like water. Oh, I'm not on the camera yet again. My gosh, what is wrong with me tonight? There we go. So we're just going to fill that in. Don't worry, we have lots of these to fill in, so no big deal that I don't know how to do my job. I'm going to take a mop brush and just soften that out where it's not quite smooth. And so this is just a normal mop brush, a blush brush. What I use for acrylic painting would work. This one is a mop brush for actual, like it's an actual art one. It doesn't matter to me if it sheds. So I don't even care if I'm completely in the lines of those purple lines. Those will show through a little bit later. That is fine. I'm going to wipe that off just a bit. Line that tail again. Be careful right around there. And then smooth that. Again, it doesn't really matter if I smudge a little bit out because I've got to fill that in later anyway. But I do want to make sure that I don't have too many harsh lines that are not, like I had a definite line where I outlined that, where it wasn't smooth. That I want to smooth out. This color is actually fairly accurate. I thought I would have to do a lot of color adjusting. Weird. Let's see. And this is really one of the things that I find to be the biggest difference between the Inktense and the watercolor. With watercolor, like right here where I've got all these brush strokes, you just keep working it with the watercolor, and even if it dries, it doesn't matter. You can rework it and soften all that out. With Inktense, when it dries, those streaks are staying because it's permanent. Sometimes that's a great thing. Like right here, see how I can go right over the purple? No big deal because that is staying put. And I'm using the same color, just by adding more water, it just makes it that lighter teal color. Now I would say, for me anyway, I found Inktense to be easier to get the hang of than watercolor by a long shot. Like Inktense to me, the way that I layer them are very, very similar to how I layer acrylics. So it was a very easy transition in my case. The brushes are very similar. Like everything is really close. And so they are why I finally felt comfortable enough to go ahead and use watercolors, because watercolors are one of the more difficult mediums, I would say. A lot of people think that watercolors are the easiest. I used to have students do that all the time. They would want to do watercolors thinking it would be the easiest, and they would avoid oils thinking oils are the hardest. It's really the reverse. I actually think oils, when teaching anyway, I found it to be easier to teach someone oil than acrylic or a lot of other mediums, as long as I could be there to show them when things needed to dry, or, you know, stop and let it dry before you move on. Thought that was a noticed that my palette or my camera was wrong again. That was an old notice though. Freaked me out again. Like, not again. And I don't care if some of these are lighter or darker. I actually prefer that. We want to get some variation in here. See, long horizontal, short diagonal. But I'm working in smaller sections too, because as this dries, it's going to create streaks if I don't work them out quickly. Now, one thing that you can do to avoid that and have a smoother look, but I'm making mine dark, so that's why I'm not. But one of the things that you can do is add water first. So let's say this one. If I add water in here first, that will stay wet so that this will go on now smoother, and I won't have be as likely to have the brush strokes. But the flip side is that also means it's going to be a little bit lighter. Tessa said, the doggies are so well behaved and deserve another treat. Oh, and were you able to film Chicken eating his treat? No, because Chicken is refusing to eat in front of me. Chicken is being, well, he's being Chicken. I'll have to get Matt to film because as soon as Chicken sees me, he's like, must flirt with your feet. That is just all Chicken wants to do. Or sit on my shoulder and like he talks to my ear or my face and gets all, it's adorable, but he won't eat in front. He's being Chicken. So no, I have not done that yet. Also, boys, got a super chat. Do you want your super chat? I'm teaching them. I'm making what that is. Say thank you, Tessa. Tessa got you a super chat. Say thank you. I would teach them to bark if they would ever bark. It's just not something that these guys do. Hog does never bark. No, you don't. Do you get a super chat treat? Okay. Oh my gosh, you're getting chatter teethers. Okay, go lay down. Go lay down. Say thank you, Tessa. Lay down. No, that's a piece of paper I never cleaned up. Go lay down. Don't inhale that. Wait, bed. Lay down. Go boys. Gibson, down. Pretend like you don't know the rules. Seriously, slowest race dogs ever. Okay. So, but yeah, the Inktense I feel compared to watercolor, I don't know. I just always felt when I worked with them, I didn't have as much, or maybe I was just putting too much pressure on myself with the watercolor, but it really made it easy for me when I did start. I started with watercolor pencil first, got the hang of that, and then went to watercolor pans. But I honestly credit Inktense to me getting comfortable. And it may just be, like I said, I'm used to acrylics is one of my primary mediums, so Inktense just makes sense to me the way I layer it. He's mad because I call him Chicken. No, Chicken, that is just Chicken's name. He says Chicken now. He says, buck, buck, chicken bird, and he does the high-pitched bird. It's really cute. And him not eating in front of me isn't because he's mad. It's because he loves me so ridiculously much. Like, he just wants to flirt with me nonstop. He's funny. Cockatiels have to be one of the most underrated birds because they make the best pets by a long shot, I think, for most people, as far as birds go. So now I'm going to come through and make some of these darker ones. And I'm not trying to cover my purple all the way. I want to get that variation. Get these little rings. So Chicken's name was originally supposed to be, I think Matt was going to call him Jace after Magic the Gathering, some character. I think that's what it was from. And I just kept saying, he's a chicken. And then it just stuck. And this is fun because what I'm doing right now, filling in the rest of this will go so fast and so easy because of what we're building up here. Like, this is really the longest portion of this. But make sure these lines are smooth. You do not want a bunch of, you don't want it to look fluffy. You don't want a bunch of short, sketchy lines in here. Again, that long horizontal, short diagonal. Just keep that, like saying that to yourself whenever you do anything with water and you've got ripples in the water. And I want to actually keep this fairly dark around the tail here so that the tail stands out more. Yeah, I will. I need to do a short with the chicken. Maybe he can hang out with me. I'm trying to think when I'll have him hang out with me when I'm editing next. He loves hanging out in my office. He makes work a little difficult. Now see how I'm starting to build up more of these darker ripples? Okay, now I'm going to dry this and then we can put the lighter colors on. Actually, hold on, I'm missing a couple of spots here in the center. Getting a little too ahead of myself here. Because if I don't go dark here, when I come back through with the white highlights, they're not going to stand out much because I don't have the dark next to it. That's better. Okay, now let's dry it. I see an area I missed that I don't like. I'm going to go back over it. Sometimes when you're sitting in front of something for too long, you will just miss things. I'm going to go right up against that tail. Again, so that when I go on top with the tail will stand out more. Okay, let's pick a lighter color now for that aqua. I may have to mix it. Let's see. Come on. Yeah, that isn't going to work. This is probably my lightest. So maybe if I just use this with a lot of water. I might need a little bit of green. We'll find out. We'll do a couple of tests. So I'll go ahead and put it onto the palette so that we can be certain I'll forget it to switch it back. Okay, let's clean that up. So I'm going to take some water and paper towel and we'll clean this spot out. And you can use any plastic palette, would work fine for this. It may actually be a little bit more convenient. Okay, so let's see how light this is when I add a lot of water to it. I lost my brush. Huh. There's that one. Where'd the other one go? It's probably right in front of me or on the floor where half everything else I own in here is. Weird. Although I could switch to, do I have a filbert in here somewhere. Why don't I have a filbert? I don't have anything I want over here. What have I done to my other brush? Weird. I know it's got to be right in front of me. How do you just lose an entire brush? Oh, there it is. Found it. Okay. May end up adding a bit of green to get the color where I want. So let's see. Oh no, that is gorgeous. That blue, it's a little overexposed here. It is so pretty. Oh, I'm excited. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a bunch of water. See how I just keep reworking that and I'm making this ink mixture. Thin that out, add some more. If I want it to be a lighter color, add more water. Let's see, that's probably good. And now, look at me, I switched cameras. It's a Christmas miracle. Okay, and I'm just gonna wash that right over this, over the light and the dark. And this looks more blue on the camera. It looks a little bit more aqua to me in person. And see why I did the dark first? Look how much easier I'm making my life, just being able to go right over everything. I'm gonna dry that because it's really wet. I don't want it to run. It is starting to run in a couple of spots. Let's smooth that out. So if whoever is bidding on this, if you have the Inktense tins with my dolphin, it's the dolphin or the turtle, those are both my paintings. So you will actually have Inktense by the same artist who did those tins in the same style. Because this is the same way that I painted before. What are you up for? Go lay down. You don't know, go lay down. Poor bad cow. He's not smart enough to be discerning in what noises I make that he's getting a treat for. He's just like, oh, your pitch was kind of similar to the last time I got a treat. No, bad cow. Gibson knows the actual words. See, anywhere where it's more water, that's going to be lighter. Okay, let's try that. Now, before I start with the white highlights, I'm going to go ahead and work on the dolphin tail just a bit. Actually, some of the dolphin tail I'm definitely going to be doing the pens. I'm going to use the pencils on a few areas, but trying to decide. No, let's go ahead and do a glaze of gray over the tail and get some of the darker. Actually, no, I'm going to do some. See, there's so many different ways with art. That's the fun thing. There are so many different ways to get to the same end. My mind is constantly like, wait, will this be better? No, that one's faster. No, wait, but if I do it that way, that's going to make this part harder. You're constantly working out problems in your head. As an artist, you are a problem solver. That is what you do. So there's never like, I always know this is the order I'm going to do it in, and then I'm going to do this. There's so many different ways to get to the same end. Rob, thank you for the super chat. Oh, I said it, Wade, that time. You want your super chat cookie? Thank you, Rob. Boy, say thank you to Rob for the super chat. Did you feel bad for the bad cow because he thought he could get one by just coming over here for no apparent reason? I miss my bad cow. If you're not on Instagram, Rob, I think you are. I posted bad cow. I don't know if it's still up. It might be up. Wagging his tail, looking out the window. When neighbors walk by, they don't understand what. They're over here licking their lips because I'm like standing here holding this. But when neighbors walk by, he likes to look out the front window and that tail just wags so fast. Okay, you want this? Yeah, okay, back up. Go boys. Say thank you, Rob. But yeah, that video of Wade wagging his tail looking out the window is so cute. Okay, go lay down. 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 Wade. Oh, turn around. Don't give me sad puppy eyes. That's emotional manipulation. Lay down. Say thank you, Rob. Good boys. Okay. One of my lights flashed. Oh, did I hit? Weird. Why did that go out? Anyway, moving on. Okay. Next. What did I decide on that? Yes, let's go ahead and make a grayish purple to put over that. And then I'm going to go over it with the pencils. So I don't even know where my black is to make the gray. I may have to grab the new one I just bought. Is that what this one was? That might be this. I think that is remnants of, yeah, that's remnants of black over there. So we'll grab that one. This one mix black with a bit of the, well, maybe with some of the teal. Let's see if those two colors work. Yeah, that works okay. I'm just going to wash that right on over this. Now, I used a bit of the teal so that it has that reflection look of the water. The same teal I used in the background is what I mixed in with that black. But I used a lot of water, and that's why it's such a light gray right now. Let's mix a little bit more, make it a little bit darker than that. Now one of the things I love with Inktense, and I think that's probably why I got comfortable with this first before I was more comfortable with the watercolor, is with the Inktense, the white is just a normal part of how I work. You're not really building, it doesn't have to stay translucent to work. It's almost somewhere a little bit closer to gouache in some ways. Gouache is just opaque watercolor, but a lot of this felt a lot like gouache to me. Okay, let's darken it up even more. As I'm building this, I keep thinking, yeah, a little bit more. Because then I'm just going to put mostly highlights with the white pencil. So right now it looks like everything's like way too dark, but I'm going to come back on top with white. But also, see how I'm doing it translucent enough? I can still see some of what I did before. And that scratch piece of paper I have next to my palette, I cannot recommend that enough because I can test, did I mix enough water? Should I add more water? Is the color, did I even grab the right color? These are so similar. When you look at the palette, like some of these colors look almost exactly the same. I always test it on my scratch piece of paper first. Okay, let's dry that, and then we'll grab some pencils. Now, as I'm looking at this, I don't like this glob of light up there. Really quick, before I move on, I'm going to darken that up because that's not cute. It's just standing, it's drawing my attention up there in a very odd way. So let's just darken some of this up. Now the tape that I'm using for this, it is a pH neutral artist masking tape, so it is a lower tack, but the bigger deal there is that it's pH neutral. So I get it on Amazon. The one that I'd been linking, apparently they changed the listing. It doesn't say that it's pH neutral anymore on the newer one, so I don't know if it's just a different product with the same link. I don't know what they did, because sometimes Amazon does that, or the sellers do. I don't think it's Amazon themselves, but I don't know. So I don't have the actual link for what I'm using, because that link has a different description now. So yeah, but it is, I know Jerry's carries it. There was some on Amazon, but it was like twice as much as what it should have cost. It was like $20, some crazy amount. So I don't know if that was like a one-off, somebody was just price gouging because no one else had it right now, or what that was all about. But Jerry's Artarama, I know for sure. Well, I say I know for sure, but I haven't bought it from them in a long time. That's where I'd gotten it before. Okay, so now let me move these out of the way. And I'm going to bring the pencils over. And I will definitely be using these again for some of the brightest white highlights, but I'm going to use pencils first. So let's slide these over. Now, here's the thing with Inktense pencils. It is not the same as using colored pencils. So like some of these colors you look at and it like a light blue. One, that color, like, I don't know if you can really see. This light blue. Well, I guess we'll come back to that. Tessa wants the boys to have a treat. Oh, Wade is on top of that. Oh my gosh, Wade, are you serious? Did you, wrong camera. Did Tessa give you a treat? Yeah? Can you see his eyes? He's like, I heard Tessa gave me a super chat. Okay, say thank you, Tessa. You're really trying for fat greyhounds, huh? I don't know. You guys may also get a walk out of this later to burn some of this off. Say, it's okay. We like walks. Good boys. See, thank you, Tessa. Okay, go lay down. Lay down. Go lay down. Come on. You're race dogs. You're supposed to be fast at this. Lay down, Wade. He stops and looks like, well, could I had another? I have never hit a point where they were stuffed. Like, I have never seen it happen where they didn't want more. So, okay. On to the pencils. So if we look at these pencils, like this one, see how it has kind of a light blue at the end? The actual color it comes out is not light. Actually, that one kind of looks light right now, but that just made a liar out of me. But it generally will be darker. If I go over a dark color, oh, this is wet. But if I go over a dark color, mostly the pencils make things darker. They don't lighten it up. Like if I put a light blue colored pencil, well, a wax-based one anyway, over when I'm working in colored pencil, it will lighten it. The Inktense, most of these colors are just going to darken it. So that's just something to be aware of. It's not a bad thing. It's just how it is. Let's see. Nick sent me a link from Jerry's. Yeah. Let's see. Sheep color, the crepe paper, contours easily, and it's acid free. Yeah. Nick sent me a link of that. I think he's got it over here too. Okay. So that is just something to be aware of. Like you've got these pink colors. This is actually a better example. Look at the pink one. Look how light that is. But the actual color, those aren't even close. So this is another one you want to test. And you also want to test, what is that going to look like when you put water on it? Because that can be different. With enough water, then it is kind of close to that. So it's not that it can't be this color, but it's not going to be that color unless it's on top of white paper. So I always like to put the pencils on top of where I've already gone. I'm only going to darken it. I am not going to be lightening things up. If I need to lighten it, I've got to put white down first. Oh, hold on, another. Rebecca, thank you so much for the super chat. And oh, they don't, Bad Cow thinks I'm tricking him. Look at, oh nope, he figured it out. Thank you. Oh, boys, you guys are getting spoiled. They are trying to make fat greyhounds. What is this? Or they're trying to guarantee that you get a walk later. That might be it too. See, thank you, Rebecca. Back up. Ready? There's good boys. Oh, that's very tasty, huh? Oh, so good. Okay, lay down. 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 Like, why can't we just stand here and wait? Why bother going to lay down? You know the rules. Lay down. No, not in the same bed. Gibson, back up. You know you don't want to lay in that bed with, are you serious? Yeah, that's what I thought. Gibson does not share beds. He doesn't want to share a bed with a toy. He certainly doesn't want to share it with Wade. Okay, so anyway, that kind of gives you an idea of these pencils. And it's not that the color can't, like I said, up against white, that lighter lavender color, it can be, but we're not going up against white. So now it can't. If I wanted this color, or I wanted to take this pencil and make it lavender, I would put the white Inktense block down first, paint it on there, let it dry. Now I would be up against white and I could make it work that way. Okay, now what colors do I need? Oops. I want to go with something kind of a grayish tone to darken some of these. And let's see what colors I've got in here. We have ink black, Payne's gray. What else do I have? I need more of the teal. I need to get some of these darker teals in. Let's try these guys. Oh, yeah, that should work. So what I'm gonna do is test these first. Let's see how dark they go when I initially lay them down and what they're gonna blend out like. So actually, let's move this so you guys can see. That is perfect. That is such a pretty color. Green aquamarine. You are a keeper. I think you're going to be too, oh, that's way too green. So this one was mallard green. Yeah, that is definitely not the green we want. So let's put that back. And then, of course, the black. So let's see when I add water how all of these look. So we've got, it's not even as green, though. I may need a different pencil there. There's the gray, and then, of course, the black. Okay, so the gray I actually really like. It's a bluish gray. I need a different blue. Let's see what the sea blue looks like. Because I need a blue that's closer to the color that I used there. See why it's so important to test? Two blue, so that is not going to be it. I need something closer to green. Let's move this out of the way. And so mallard green did not work for me. Teal green, maybe? That looks like it'll be too light. I think the mallard green may be mixed in with the other one. I don't know. Dark aquamarine. See, in this right now, that doesn't look aquamarine. That just looks light blue. Let's see what it comes out like. No, that looks like it might. That is, kinda. I don't like it as much. Yeah, I'll go with the other blue and add green if I need to tint it. Okay. So let's put the mallard green to the side though, because I have a feeling I'll accidentally grab that and make a hot mess. So now that we've got an idea, let's go ahead and start shading in. Oh, where's my white? Do I not have white in the set? I probably don't. Okay, hold on. I need to find a white Inktense pencil. Now the white Inktense pencil will not be anywhere near as opaque or light as the Inktense block. So just something to be aware of. And I just have to figure out where I found my extra Derwent watercolors. I know I have them, it's just a matter of where I put them. There we go. I have what are these ones? They're Derwent something. That is not it, whatever it is. What is this one? Come on, open up. That is definitely not it either. How about here? Oh, is this it? Yep, here's an Inktense white. I always get extra of the white and the black. Those ones I probably go through the fastest. Okay, so let's go ahead and start shading. This will lighten it, but it won't go quite as bright as the Inktense block, which is good. We'll keep the Inktense block for our lightest white. Let's see how I can start shading now. Now, if I go over this with water, which I don't want to do, if this part I go over with water, it pretty much just disappears. You don't even see it anymore. And when it dries, it kind of comes back, but not, again, not like the Inktense block. But if I did this with the Inktense block, it would be too bright. So this is a nice, happy medium. and it sticks much better than colored pencil would. Colored pencil just does not stick well to this. Now, I find that I can get finer detail with the Inktense block and a fine liner brush than I can with the pencils. So, something to keep in mind. If you can only get one, Inktense block or Inktense pencils, I go with the block. The blocks are so versatile. You can get super fine detail. You can get thick, like fill in an entire block backgrounds. If I could only use one, that's what it would be. But I do prefer using both together like you see me doing here. Now this will need to have more of the blue, but I need to put white down first. Otherwise the blue is just not going to show up. I'll probably end up having to come back through with the Inktense block and then blue on top of that. Let's clean up these edges. So here's where we can correct, like if your lines, if they were like mine and they weren't perfectly smooth, no big deal. They're all cleaned up now. I'm really focusing on where those highlights go. Now, right now, this feels like it's not bright enough. No big deal. We're going to be darkening those up when we put the darks in. Wow. We're going to darken it up when we put the darks in. Super redundant there. Now, I'm copying the highlights pretty close to what the reference photo is, except for those lines. The power lines don't need to be included, or whatever those were. Not a whole lot of power lines out in the ocean usually. And I'd rather this look like he was out in the ocean. And this will go over with the blue, so it's not going to stay white right there. Okay, let's darken some of this up. I think the Payne's Gray is going to be my go-to here. Yeah, that's nice. Not too dark. I think the black would have been too much, because this is definitely working. Now, here's the thing. A little bit of the pencil goes a long way. I don't think that I need to go over any of this with water, but if I did, it, like, seriously, a little area of shading, like, oh, look, I just put a teeny tiny amount. And then you go over it with water. Oh, that doesn't have any water on it. You go over it with water and it's like, and now that's everywhere. Like it really takes, it can take over. So be careful with that when you're doing something like this. Like if I go over it just a little bit, don't go crazy smudging that around because that will spread. This is not like using OMS on colored pencil. This stuff spreads. We've got a darker bit down here. Let's see how well that blue, actually, I'm going to switch to the light blue for that. I think this is going to be too dark. Maybe if I go over it light. Oh no, there we go, over the white. That is showing up pretty good. That actually worked. Again, cleaning up these, and I may, tomorrow when I come back with fresh eyes, I'll probably clean up a couple little spots on this before I send it out. And this is not going to get sent out until, so I ran out of the mats and I meant to order them last weekend and I forgot, completely forgot. So I will be doing that on, I've got to order them. If I remember, I'll get them ordered tonight. So they usually come in 2 days and then I'll get this shipped out probably either late this weekend or early next week. I've got another painting that needs to be shipped out too, so they can go together. So I'm going to pull this shadow down. This I'm definitely going to blend with the OMS though, or not OMS, with water. I've been working with too much with colored pencil lately. And I can do the same shading. Let's say I wanted to do more shading in the water. I don't actually like how the water looks, but let's say I wanted to darken an area. Excuse me. It looks better in person. It looks a little bit lighter, washed out on the video, but I'll show you on this camera in a moment. But if I wanted to, you can sit there with your pencils and do more shading and then blend that out too. Like they're so, this is why I love using the two together. I think it's easier using both than just one or the other. But again, if just one, go with the blocks. The pencils, you can do everything just with the pencils too. I think that they're just, it takes a little bit more work if that's if you're just doing that, because trying to fill in the whole background can be more. But I've got videos showing you how to do it, so it can be done. And we want these dark areas pretty dark so that when we put those shiny bits on, it looks really bright. And I don't want too much water here because I don't want to make a hot mess. Just going over it a little bit. The water brushes, Derwent water brushes are my favorite. I have one here, but it doesn't have anything in it because I didn't think to fill that before I started. But these things are super handy. You just squeeze the end of it and water comes out, so I don't have to keep reaching back and dipping it in my water. Super, super handy. And I've tried them by a few different brands and some off brands. I definitely like Derwent's the best. See how when I blend at this point, I'm much more controlled than those initial layers. Okay, I really like that. Let's go ahead, and I am now, actually I'm going to do a few little lines with the pencil to lighten it before we go on with the white, which will be really light. Just lighten a few bits. This, again, not going to blend out that white pencil. That does not give me results I like. You can see I also don't need it to be super sharp. It works just fine and it goes on really smooth. So like a colored pencil, if it starts getting dull like this, sometimes you'll get that grainy, gritty look where it's just hitting the tooth of the canvas, like the top. This doesn't really do that. Just going around what's already there, a little bit of detailing. And this also allows me to clean up some of those edges that weren't quite smooth enough. It's such a forgiving medium. I've always loved, it's been way too long since I worked and I forgot how much I enjoy, like it's just so much fun. Okay, let's get some really bright white highlights with the Inktense block now. So let's move these out of the way. Actually, I'll leave the white pencil out, but I'm going to put the others away for now. Oops. Oh, I just messed that up and they're spilling. Get in there. Stop trying to escape. You're trying to escape. Oh, those are all going to spill. I did not get those fit in there right. Okay. So now we're going to mix the white. I shouldn't even switch to the palette camera. We all know I'm going to forget. And my white, you can see it has a bunch of lavender on it. We're just going to clean that up before I start because that lavender will mix in with this. I'm going to wipe that on a paper towel. Just clean all those edges off. I don't care if a little bit's on there, but not that much. That's enough. Okay. That's all over my fingers. clean my fingers up so I don't get fingerprints everywhere. And I am going to just thin that with water. The more water, the more, well, it'll run more, but it also won't be as opaque. If you want it more opaque, use less water. Okay, switching camera, remembering to switch camera. Now, as you add this, it's going to look kind of translucent. So this is the thing. You have to, well, this actually looks pretty opaque, but you have to plan on when it dries, it is going to be super white, super bright. Like what I'm doing right here, it doesn't look like it's doing much. Wait until I put wait until it dries. You'll see what I mean. So don't keep reworking it thinking it's not getting light enough. It will when it dries. So you're kind of working like with one of those magic pens that erase, only the reverse. Or disappear, not erase. That's not the right word. Do I notice that Inktense pencils leave like specks when added water, or do I need to blend it more? It's because you're not, yeah. So that's the thing with the pencils. You'll get that more grainy, gritty, that rougher look. Not with the white because I'm pushing harder, but the other ones, yeah, that's when you apply it directly too. I do have, I mean, when you can see where it's a little bit more rough looking because it's like you're never really going to get it blended out perfectly 100% smooth. You're always going to have some where the pencil sticks more to the paper and didn't really activate all the way with the water, if that makes sense. I don't find that as much with watercolor pencils. Watercolor paper pencils are just like completely activated right away. Inktense, a lot of it, it's almost like these nuggets just stick and then they just don't blend all the way with the water. So that just seems to be kind of the nature from what I found of them. You can see where this is starting to get way more opaque there. You can't even see the line I just did, but as it dries, you definitely will. I'm going to put a few little dots so it looks sparkly. Right along the edge, and I'm going to do that in quite a few spots in the water too, right at where the color breaks are. It's like here, let's put a few little dots. And I don't want too many bright highlights on the tail, just the sparkles. And these little areas really start to look shiny. But it works better if the white is right up, touching your darker darks. That will make it look much shinier. Like if I put the dots over just the light areas, it doesn't look that shiny. You've got to have that contrast. That is what makes water look all sparkly. I'm going to put a few dots as I move my way around, right at that line. And this is definitely something tomorrow with fresh eyes, I may come and add a few more little sparkle dots. But my eyes are definitely starting to get blurry from not taking enough breaks. See, like these lines I'm doing right here, I'm going to probably have to tone those back down with color because it's going to start getting really opaque, way too shiny. Actually, we'll see. It might look good how it is. Sometimes it surprises me. I can hit some of these areas, just a few spots where I had done the white pencil, so I can make a few areas just pop a bit more. And I don't notice that I'm not really focusing much back here. I want that to look a little bit further away. It's mostly this area up front that I'm putting these types of details. Clean some of those lines up, just about done. Okay, I'm gonna call that done-ish. I'm gonna glaze a little bit of green over that. While that dries, actually let me dry it, and then I'm gonna grab the mat, and then I can put the glaze I need. Okay, let me find, do I even have the black mat in here? I might have to use the blue or the white one to show you. No, I should have one. I think it's in this. Let's just drag this whole thing over here. Okay, give me just a second. Oh, I don't. I only have the white ones over here. Where'd the black one go? I know I had one up in here somewhere. Weird. Okay, well this one will actually end up coming with a white mat, but what I need to do is double check where's the black one? Sorry, I'm on a mission now. I found a black one, just not the right size. Okay, well let's just open this. Because I want to make sure what I'm doing is, oh, actually, whoa. I may change my mind. Whoever bids, let me know. Do you want black? So you can kind of get a better idea with the color there, or do you want white? Because that white looks better. Oh, I like the white. I don't often prefer a white matte, but man, does that look good. Holy wow. Okay, so just whoever wins, again, leave a comment and let me know when you check out. So let me grab a pencil. I am really, well, crap, all my pencils are flying out. I knew those weren't sitting in there properly. Let me put these, oh, they're still jumping. Stop jumping out of the container. Why are you jumping? That should work. So what I'm going to do is hold the mat in place so that I can get an idea of where I want my signature. Definitely don't want it over these little circle-y guys. So it would be over here. Whenever I paint marine life, I put a little dolphin tail at the end of the H. Almost put 2003, wow. There we go. So see why I did that with the signature, why I held the mat in place? Because if I didn't, I probably would have signed down here. It would have been completely covered by the mat. But because I held this, I was able to see where that signature should be placed. Wow, I really like that white mat. Okay, so there is the finished. Let me hold it over here so you can see the color a little bit better. I think that this was one of the, you can kind of see the way the light's hitting it is weird, but man, that is really, I'm quite happy with how that guy came out. That is so pretty. I want it, like, these are my colors. That would look good on my wall with that white mat. Man, I'm a little jealous right now. Oh, we have Zenful, who I'm probably butchering your name, and I apologize, said, I love your art. I learned so much from you. Thank you. And the boys already know that means, yes, Gibson, it's a super chat. Come on, Gibson. Look at you being such a good boy and waiting to find out for sure. That was very good. You're trying very hard tonight, huh? Okay. Good boys. Say thank you for the super chat, Zenful. Okay, go lay down. So we've got a couple things we're going to go over tonight. Go lay down. There's a critical error warning on the website to go when you go bid. Is it still? Hold on. What is it doing? I don't want to place a bid because it's going to jump. What is it? It's giving you a critical error. Can you log out and log back in? See if that will make a difference. I don't know why it would be. It looks like everything is okay on my, like from what I'm able to see. That doesn't necessarily mean anything because sometimes these things just behave badly. Everything's looking okay. Oh, is it fine? Okay. Thanks. Okay, so 2 things we are going to be talking about tonight. The first question came over at Instagram from, and I'll be answering your questions in just a moment, but we're going to start, let me pull this up. I've got too many windows open right now. So Stephanie had asked me to, she said, I need help. I don't feel like creating. I am burned out on acrylic paintings I feel aren't good enough. What can I do to reignite a desire to create? I feel like I have wasted time and money on art supplies that I don't use. I used to be excited about creating. I feel like life gets in the way of creating and there are so many other things that take priority. What will people think if my house is a mess and I am painting? That is my mindset right now. Okay, so the first thing on here that jumped out to me was Stephanie saying, I'm burned out on acrylic paintings that I don't feel are good enough. So I went and looked at her stuff. I love when comments come through on Instagram or MeWe because I can actually look at your artwork and get an idea. Now, I did not get approval from her because I asked too late. I didn't even think to ask earlier, but I did not get approval, so I'm not going to show you her actual artwork because that seems rude if she was not comfortable with that. So why is my hair sticking out? Weird. That's going to be fun to edit. Hold on. It's going to drive me crazy when I have to edit this and see this random hair. No one cares, Lisa. Move on. Okay, anyway, so it's still like just this random weird hair. I need to stop caring. So anyway, the first thing that jumped out was I feel burned out on acrylic paintings that aren't good enough. So when I looked at her work, the number one thing I would say is that feeling, and this is for anyone who feels this way, that feeling of I'm kind of burned out, I feel like what I'm doing isn't good enough. That's when it's time to level up. That kind of tells you right there, you are ready to skill up. This is time. And you might think, okay, easy said, I always want to do better. How do I do that? In this case, with Stephanie's work, I can tell Stephanie is freehanding this. She does a lot of pet portraits. So for Stephanie's case specifically, the drawings need to be more accurate. You can skill up so easily, start tracing. So what happens? I looked back a couple of years worth of Stephanie's work. Now, Stephanie absolutely is good. She's very good, but she can be even better. And when you're even better at something, that motivates you to want to do more. So it's encouraging. I mean, think you decide you want to lose weight, you start working out or you start eating healthy. When those pounds start to come off, you get more motivated to keep going. But in the beginning, you're just kind of like, nah, why bother? Nothing's ever going to change. You know, at least that's what I do. So the motivation doesn't really hit till you start seeing the results. And I think that that happens with our art a lot. We hit a kind of plateau and then we're just like, I don't want to go. I want it to be better, but I don't know how to do that. So in this case with Stephanie, I would say start tracing. Now you may think, I don't want to trace. Tracing is not interesting to me. No, but what has happened is for so long you've drawn slightly incorrect that your brain now looks at that and thinks that it's correct. It looks at things that aren't drawn right and it's like, yeah, good enough, that looks right, but it's not. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know it's not, but your brain's telling you it is, and it's a whole, you're just having this whole conflict going on. So instead, try tracing some of your portraits first. Not only is this going to give you better control of where on the canvas they land, because that's the other thing that I'm noticing is all of the portraits are a little bit too small for the size of the canvas, way too much open space on the round. What is it? Oh, that's something kept touching my ankle. It's my own clothing. Yeah, genius, Lisa. Move on. Focus. So where was I? I totally lost my train of thought because, oh no, something touched me. Your clothes did it. So if in this case where these portraits were, and I see this a lot when people are doing pet portraits, they're just a little bit too small, or people portraits, a little too small for the size of the canvas. Fill that out. But if you're tracing, you're using a projector or you're using tracing and transfer paper, it gives you more control over the size of that end product. You can position it, you can move it around, figure out where it wants to go on the canvas. Instead of, a lot of times people will draw, and it's very common to just draw too small or too big. If you are drawing it on another piece of paper, so even if you're going to, you don't want to trace, draw it on another piece of paper and then use transfer paper to transfer it onto the canvas. So you can erase and adjust the size better without messing stuff up. That would be a huge thing. But tracing, what is going to happen when you start tracing, when you've been drawing something wrong over and over and over again, and your brain's like, it's close enough, it looks okay to me, you've got to break that. And the easiest way to break it is to trace it and start forcing your brain to see what's accurate instead of what it's trying to convince you looks close enough. I see this so often with artists where it's like, you look at it and you're like, they've got potential, they're good. But the drawings for years have been not quite right. And I don't mean stylized, I mean they're just not right. They're just a little bit warped. The eyes aren't lined up quite right, like a little bit off. And when you correct that, so you start tracing, you train your brain to see it accurately. Now all of a sudden, you're going to feel that motivation. You're going to feel that spark of excitement of, oh my gosh, I see improvement in my work. Now, the goal is not that you're dependent on tracing. It's to correct the way your brain sees things. Once you've traced things several times, you'll get to the point where you can freehand it more accurately and faster. So that is what I want to see happen. And I mean, you can trace forever if you want to, I don't care, but it doesn't make any difference. Whatever gets you to a good end result, that is what matters to me. So I don't care what tools you use. But even if tracing's not your goal and you like the process of freehanding it, great. But you need to start tracing for a bit just to correct what you've trained yourself as incorrect. Like, example, I play violin. When we first learned how to play violin, they would not allow us, when we went home to practice, we had to sit there and pluck the strings. We were not allowed to even touch the bow until we had the lesson of how to hold that bow properly. Because when you hold a violin bow, it's very, you don't do this, you don't, however, people, I just got attacked by a paintbrush. God, I'm clumsy. You hold it in a very specific manner. And when you can see the way my fingers are, it's a very specific way to do that. They were worried that the kids would go home and be grinding away here and you learn bad habits, and it's harder to unlearn those than learn it right in the first place. So if you're instead, when you trace it, you're learning it correctly, in your case, you're going to unlearn a few bad habits that your brain has convinced you is correct. You learn it correctly, that's going to motivate you to do things more accurately. Now, moving on, let's see. I also want to point out, sometimes, I guess just the next thing is, sometimes just spending more time is what you need to level up. So let me show you an example. This was back from, the first one was 2006. I want to say the next one was 2008. But the 2006 piece, this is what my art looked like for a very long time. I was doing these pet portraits, and the first one there, you can obviously see the first, which one's which. I was spending maybe 45 minutes doing a quick sketch, quick shading. That's what that is it. I'd sell them for like $45. So I knew I wanted to do better. I knew I could do better. I just was like, well, what do I do? What do I change? I know I can do this. I thought, well, let's just put in 8 hours instead. Instead of 45 minutes, what happens if I make myself spend 8 hours? That's what happens. Night and day difference. Everything looked like the first one until I started putting in more time. 45 minutes, 8 hours. That's all it took. That alone. Instant skill up, instant level up, because I slowed down. I started it where I would have been done with the whole thing. I'm still working on one ear. I'm still working on one thing. I'm making the values correct. I put a background, so that was something. But even without the background, if you look at just the dogs, look at the difference in the shading. And it's funny to look at this because even the good one, the air quote good one, is, there's still so much I would change and make even better now. But that was so motivating for me to want to do more, to draw more. It was like, oh my gosh, look what did you see what I just did? I just did that. I was so proud of myself for that skill up. And that's what I want to see for everybody. When you hit that point, you're like, oh, I don't feel like creating because I feel like I'm wasting my supplies. It's not good enough. That is when you need to skill up, and that spending more time. It may be as simple as that. Trace, learn to get your initial drawing accurate, and spend more time. The next thing that she had said was, I feel like life gets in the way of creating, and there are so many other things that take priority. What will people think of my house is a mess and I am painting? Schedule things. This one's actually pretty easy. One, most people don't care how messy your house is, depending on how messy your house is. But for most of us, I think we care way more than anyone else does. But I know I'm super neurotic about it, and no one who ever comes over actually cares. Actually, I think I make people uncomfortable because I'm so neurotic about it. I've actually had people comment on that. Like, one friend was using my microwave to heat something up, and she's looking at me going, it's not gonna splatter, I put a lid on it. I'm thinking, okay, I don't know why you're worried. Like, I'm okay with it, but like, you can tell, like, I could tell I was making people nervous because everything's always clean. I'm a bit like, so anyway, this is coming from someone who super wants everything clean all the time. I am telling you, people do not care as much as you do. But what you can do, if you are like me on that, you're just like, no, it all has to be clean always. Schedule it. So Friday mornings are my main cleaning time. I know I'm gonna clean Friday morning. I don't care if I'm sick. I am cleaning Friday mornings. That is what I do. But I also clean throughout the week, in that, like, when I leave this room, I'm gonna take my cup with me to the kitchen, drop it off there on the way to feed the fish in the other room. Like, I kind of move stuff as I go, or clean stuff as I go. So cleaning, like the full house cleaning, is never really that much work. But I schedule things. So I know I'm gonna clean the house on Friday morning. Friday night is my first night of the week. That's kind of the start of my weeks are weird, but that's where I'm gonna hit the easel. I get to paint that night, and the house has already been cleaned, so I don't have to worry about it. But let's back up. Let's say Thursday night. Thursday night is going to be when my house is the messiest, because it's the day before my main cleaning day, so I'm more likely to have a few knives in the sink that need to be cleaned, or glasses that need to be hand washed, that sort of thing. I'm not worried about it because I know that's scheduled for tomorrow. My cleaning is gonna happen tomorrow. Thursday night, I'm painting. I don't worry about, or actually I'm editing, but whatever, let's say it was painting, but I don't worry that the house needs to be clean because I've already got that scheduled for tomorrow. If you have a schedule where you know those are gonna happen, I think it makes it way easier. Whatever chore it is that you need to do, and you're like, oh, I need to get this done, I need to get that done, make a schedule. You won't believe how much time you can find when you have things scheduled. And now, I did not want to do the schedule because I kept thinking, I want to be a free spirit. I want to paint when I'm in the mood. I'll clean when I'm in the mood. I'll walk the dogs when I'm in the mood. Everything when I'm in the mood. You know what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened because I was playing video games instead. Schedule things. I found so much more time by scheduling. I know Friday mornings I clean. Like tomorrow, I know I wake up, I'm editing this video. I then will take my old lady nap, and then I get up, and then I edit the rest of this portion of that video, or edit something else. I edit all day Thursdays. And I don't worry about the house needing to be clean because I'm cleaning it. It's scheduled for tomorrow. It makes things so much easier when you've got so many things going on in your life. And while, yeah, these are simplified things, I know that we have more doctor's appointments and family stuff, and there's just a lot of stuff. But if they're scheduled, you're not going to feel so guilty about something you need to get done because you've got it scheduled for another time. Now it's art time. The next tip I have for you when you're just like, oh, I don't want to create, is you're scheduled. You sit down whether you're in the mood or not. That is scheduled. You are going to start. Usually, once you've gotten started, 10, 15 minutes in, you'll start having fun. You'll get into the groove, and you're good to go. That initial, oh, I just don't want to go to the easel, that is normal. You just have to make yourself do it. I think I had a couple more tips. Yes, 2 more tips. The next thing, excuse me, the next thing, paint something as a gift for someone. That is always so much fun for me. I painted something like one of the more recent, well, it was a couple years ago, but one of the more recent ones, I painted my friend who, he's really into saltwater fish, and he has this huge beard. So I painted his beard as coral with fish swimming around. But beard, coral instead of beard. It was so cool, and I was so excited to surprise him with it. He had no idea I was doing this. He didn't even know why I was taking a photo. He just thought I was being weird and awkward, because that's me. So a friend was helping me get photos. Like, seriously, it was a super awkward thing. Like, I left, and he was telling the friend, well, that was weird. He had no idea what I was doing. I was so excited. I had that painting done, I think, in 3 days. It normally would have taken me 2 or 3 weeks. I was so excited to show him because I knew he was going to love it, and he cried. I don't know. There's something fun about making a man cry because you made them that happy with a painting. So that sounds wrong, Lisa. But anyway, So there we go. That is one thing you can do that will make it exciting, something, a surprise for somebody that you just can't wait to show them. My next tip is something for yourself. Pet portrait or any portrait artist, we tend to get burnt out. We do so many portraits and it's like, it's not that you don't love them. It's just that you're like, oh, another portrait. Here we go. Try something different. Do a different subject and do something for you. So maybe you painted an accent wall in your home and now you're looking for the perfect paintings. You painted a gray wall and now you want these accents of pink and, I don't know, black and white and pink or teal and pink. I don't know what your color theme is, but make paintings for you because you're excited to redecorate this one little space in your house. I have done that for myself when I'll redo my bed. Like I did that not long ago. I painted my entire bedroom. No one's going to be surprised. Dark teal. But I painted everything. That meant I needed to swap out all the paintings. And so I was all excited to paint something that would look good there. So that is another thing that you can motivate you. Do something for yourself. When we start doing portraits, we're taking a lot of commissions. That's something to be grateful for, but also it can very much burn you out from wanting to create because it's like, here's another one. You've got to mix that up. Do something different, just something else, and then changing up the medium. I work in most mediums because I get bored. I could not paint and draw as often as I do if it was only one medium. I have my favorites, but also like tonight I haven't worked in Inktense in so long. This renewed my passion a little bit of, I'm excited. This was fun. I have not done this is just, it's fun to switch it up. Like I've been working for weeks on the one colored pencil piece. That's one of my favorite mediums, but weeks. Doing something different, well, that definitely keeps me going and keeps me from burning out. So I hope those tips will help. If you have any tips yourself, anyone watching this, tips that always motivate you, that get you excited to paint, please leave them in the comments to help motivate others. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about, and I have to take a second here, I have to switch out my cameras. And I couldn't do it earlier because I knew I was going to freeze things up. So let me go window capture. Not that one. I need a different window, this one. Let's see, will that work? Yep, that is the one. Okay, now I just have to put it in the right location. Give me just a moment here. This wasn't me being prepared. I actually tested how to do this earlier. Nope, one too many. There we go. Yeah, that is it. Okay, so the next question was over on Instagram, and this artist did give me permission to share his page. We're going to do a little bit of a critique, an Instagram critique. The question was, what's a great way for to build an art Instagram? I'm trying, but it doesn't seem to increase. Okay, so this is Hassan MJ Member. I'm butchering that all to heck. There are way too many letters for me. So let's pull, oops, not that, pull up, give me just a moment, and I will be answering your questions that have come in just a second here. We're gonna go through this. I just have to move some stuff around. Okay, so this is one of his pieces. Huge fan. This is I'm pretty sure this is a very young artist. Not young like child, but I think he's, or she, I actually don't know, is a younger artist. And that is important here. They have 16 followers, 31 posts. So I've got a few tips that we want to consider here. First, this artist has been on Instagram like 5 minutes. Started posting about 3 months ago. It takes so long to build a following, and this is something you need to understand. And a lot of what I'm going to say may sound a little bit critical, but the reason that I'm doing this is just that kind of reality check because I see so much potential in this artist. Like, I've been teaching for a very long time. This person's going to be great. But we have a tendency, something that I'm seeing happen constantly with artists, they are putting the cart before the horse. They want a following before they've perfected their skills, before they've really, I mean, I don't think you have to be perfect to build a following, but they're beginning artists who worry more about their following than improving their skills. Flip that around. Your art skills come first. Now, that said, I do think it's great that they're already posting stuff on Instagram because this is going to be something that takes a while to build up. So get the hang of how the hashtags work, get the hang of how the algorithms work, and the algorithms actually don't even consider the hashtags as much as they used to, so that's a whole other drama. But don't worry. If you are a new artist, do not worry about your following right now. I get that you want to build the following. I do think you should be posting on social media because you need to learn how to use those platforms as well as possible. However, your art matters more. You're not going to build a following if you're not wowing people with the art. And none of us in the beginning are wowing anyone but our family and friends with the art. So right now, post it. Let your family and friends see it. Let them give feedback if you want, or if you've got other artist friends, a group like that, that's great. But trying to build a following of strangers, the strangers don't care. You need to wow, you need to offer them something. So you look at these accounts that are bigger. What are they doing that you're not doing? Usually they're more experienced artists, but we have a tendency, especially young artists, they want to jump to the end of the line. They want to jump to the end of their skill level. You can't do that. There's no jumping ahead. There's work, there's practice, there's working on improving your own art, and you have to start from zero. You're starting from zero with followers, or in this case, you've got 16, so hey, not zero, but you're going to start at the beginning. Stop worrying about your followers and worry about improving your artwork. I had someone recently tell me that they couldn't work on hard stuff and worry about painting things that were ugly. They felt they could only stick to beginner stuff because they didn't want to disappoint their followers. You're a beginner. Who cares about your followers? We worry so much about followers way too soon. They don't matter right now. They will. They don't when you're a beginner. Work on making something that's going to wow people. If you want to grow, you've got to work on the skill level. So that was number one. It takes time. Seriously, it's been like 3 months, 4 months that this artist has been on Instagram, so that's a little bit unreasonable on expecting it to grow. Now, when I look at their art, they're going to be good. I definitely see the potential, but I want to point this out. Look here. This person, Easter3138, send me a picture on the World Art, at the World Art. These comments, and we all get these, this is spam. You want, every time I see that, report. I don't care if it's on someone else's. I don't care if it's on my own. And block. They are not helping the algorithm. They are not helping you. That is a spam comment. When they try to get you to comment and we'll share your art, usually they don't. They usually are trying to sell you. Hey, if you pay me this amount of money, we've got this huge art account, which is only other artists following that are also paying. We'll get you followers because we're going to post and tell people about it. It doesn't work. It does not work. It is not worth the money. And especially now, you're a beginner artist. You're not, the followers that are going to follow you right now are in a case like that with those spam accounts. Let's say you paid, you let them go ahead and post on their account. Anyone who follows you is probably going to be one of those other scammers because you just were a red flag of, hey, I fall for your scam. You can scam me too now. Block those. Those are not good. And I don't want to waste, like Instagram, they're very limited. They're Facebook, same thing, same company. They are limited on how many of your followers are going to show or how many people are going to show your content. I don't want them wasting those shares, showing it to people who aren't real people, who are just scammers. So, or spammers. More, it's scam, spam, both. So that is one thing. In this account, so many of these. I went through looking at the comments and most of them were, oh, here's one. Here's another scam. This painting's not done, but it's going to be good. Like, you're getting there. This person, hello, mate. Sorry for the random approach. I found your profile on Explore. No, I guess you did. But from what I can see, you have some clean artwork pictures. It's not how we talk. I would love to buy some collections of your artworks as an NFT. NFT, almost every single time, is a scam. Delete them, block them, report them. He's not a real person trying to buy an NFT. NFT and art, I'm not saying it might not ever become something. Maybe it will. Right now, always a scam. Run away. So I'm glad these are on here because I wanted to show this is important for everyone. When you see that, this is something, block it. And if you see on someone's other account, report them too. Report. You're spamming. You're not a real person. And then block them because I don't want you on looking at my stuff. So anyway, those are a couple of side things that just to be aware of that happens a lot on Instagram. But let's look at this work. One of the things that I really like is that this artist is exploring a lot of techniques. They're a beginner and they are exploring. They're trying different things, figuring out their style. That is awesome. But you're not going to really build a following until you've kind of refined what that's going to be. So don't be disappointed when people aren't following you yet. You're still discovering yourself. Don't expect people to be like jumping on this like, oh my gosh. Another thing that I really liked about this artist, their actual account, can I just go to your thing? Their tagline, art to inspire. You've already got a mission statement, which is awesome, and they are trying to inspire other artists. They're actually doing reference photos for artists, which I think is great. But this is another area you've got to improve your photography for that to work. You're not going to take off with this because no one's going to want to paint that. You want to stage your still lifes better. So if you want to offer reference photos for artists, great, do that. But be reasonable in that you've also got a skill up here too. So work on, like, this is all leaning to the side, like straighten that out, straighten your camera out, straighten or Photoshop it. You've got things cut off, like the change, well, that actually could be okay, but it's a very weird crop. It's, this round thing is in a couple of these photos. So work on studying. If you want to provide reference photos and you want to get attention for that and people to really be interested in it, you need to improve it. This one was another example. What is going on here? You didn't stage a background. The bottom of the vase is cut off. This is one, it's supposed to be candy. You've got this jelly candy thing. It's cut off. Like, you need to improve. You need to skill up everything. And it is awesome that you're doing this. I'm not saying don't keep posting while you're improving, but don't be discouraged that you're not getting a following yet. You're not there. You're not going to build a following yet on this. Eventually, as you skill up your art, as you skill up your photography skills, absolutely, keep posting them. But don't let that discourage you. Now, this is why I sound harsh and why I'm picking this apart, nitpicking so much. What happens is artists, they put all this work. This person is posting almost every day. They are doing an awesome job. And that is a big tip for Instagram. You should be posting at least every other day, ideally. They tell you like twice a day, but sometimes Instagram is like, nope, spam. They're only going to show it maybe one of those posts once. So your normal Instagram post once a day, once every other day, every 48 hours or so is normal. You can post on your stories several times a day. Reels are really big on Facebook, or not Facebook, well, I guess there too, Instagram. Now, there is some talk that they're going to be pushing back and focusing more on photos on Instagram again, because they're not the financial side of Reels is not working out for them. But Reels are going to get you more attention than photos. So something to keep in mind for those of you, like if you're an artist and you want to show somebody a photo of your work, instead of just the photo, you can take a video of it. And it's just quick, short videos that can go on your stories and it can go on the Reels. So that is an option for, something to keep in mind. But again, I really like that he's offering that. But going to the art, potential is there. Not there yet. You're not wowing anyone yet. Your family and friends who know you are probably going to see this and go, wow, that's so amazing, because they know you're a beginner. But the average stranger, not super impressed. You have so much potential too. And this is why I'm being so nitpicky, because I do not want you discouraged that you're not getting the followers you think you should have just yet on Instagram. You will, just not yet. This is something, you did some cartoons where you were, so it is a video, which is good, but no, cartoons you're not going to get a following doing just coloring books. That I wouldn't waste space or time with. Again, with the still life and it's all lopsided, and set it up better. Learn some still life skills. I like the idea of offering that for artists. That's really cool. But the photos you're doing, most people aren't going to want to paint that. Good idea. Let's refine the skill. Let's work on photography. Are you following Peter McKinnon? One of the best photographers, and there are some great photographer videos on YouTube that will teach you photography skills that you can now start applying for these reference photos for artists that you're doing. I mean, that's something that eventually you could potentially monetize. You could sell packs of reference photos if you get good enough, but you got to get good. So that is great ideas. I love your ideas. I love how often you're posting, but we need to go ahead and improve. Stuff like this, I mean, when you post something like this, embrace positivity. You've got it listed as calligraphy. I wouldn't call that calligraphy. Like, you're not, again, cart before the horse. Could you turn that into something good with more time? Now, here's the other thing that I'm seeing. You're basically putting 15 minutes of work in and expecting a 60-hour work week payoff. I guess that's the same thing as cart before the horse, but this is not the same effort level as some of the other stuff I've seen you do. I mean, which is typical of all of us. I do the same thing, but that's not drawing people in. Like, you're not going to build a following on stuff like that. And I say that, I don't want you to misunderstand and think that means you shouldn't explore and try different things. You should. And that's why it concerns me when young artists or new artists who are so worried about their followers, I don't want you to be so worried that you don't explore different techniques. I mean, you've got a completely different style here. Great. You should be exploring that, but you're not going to build a following generally on so many different things. Here, this one right there, that really showed me you've got a lot of potential. I love your contrast here. You need to straighten out the lines of the jars on some of these, but I mean, you have so much potential, but you're too worried about your followers. You've got ideas that are genius. This one here, this is such a good idea. Took a photo of this little car, there's the photo, cut it, pulled it away and displayed the artwork. That is such a good idea, but the artwork isn't there yet. If that artwork, you refined your skills on that artwork, on that drawing, you put more time into it, because again, 15 minutes of work, but you're looking for that 60-hour payoff. Put more time into it, refine your skills. You've got such good, that is such a good idea. That is great. Cart before the horse. You've got to refine the art skills before you can expect a real following. And I am telling you, I see potential in you. You can do it, but you're going to be discouraged if you're expecting followers when you're at this level. We all start at the bottom. There's nothing wrong with starting at the bottom. We all start there, but you're expecting too much too soon. So that is my advice for you on getting more followers as far with that. And more consistency. You're doing good because most of this is art related, but yeah, more consistency, you know, develop your style, and you're only going to develop your style by painting and drawing more. Don't worry about the Instagram right now. I know kids are young kids, and I don't think this is a young kid, but I mean, anyone below 30 is a kid to me. But young, excuse me, young people are so worried about those followers. Stop. Worry about your skill first. Skill matters more. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and answer some of your questions now. Let's see. We've got a bunch of those. Oops, let's get that going. Oh, we are already at 9:56. Let's see if I can go through these questions fast. Carly said, do you work on multiple drawings at the same time? I don't let myself start a new project until I finish the one I'm working on. I'm worried I'll not follow through on both or forget my rhythm. Yeah, I always make myself finish before I move on. Like, I don't allow myself to start something new because I won't finish the thing I'm currently working on. So I'm with you on that. Yeah, the only exception for me on that has been really when I work in oil paints, because you've got that dry time. There have been times where I had 3 going at the same time, but I worked on all 3 every day. So there's that. Miss said, what is the best brand of liner brush you have to date? And it's so funny because I just had my video of me not shopping at Michael's or Hobby Lobby anymore. The Hobby Lobby generic. I love their generic paintbrushes for acrylic and oil, not for watercolor, but acrylic and oil. They're generic. Those are my favorites. And that's the liner brush, that Master's Touch with these really long liners. It's their synthetic hog hair, the one that's for oil. Those are the ones I use for everything. I love them. That's the one generic product I really like. Emily said, what would you recommend doing the line work before? What would you recommend doing line work in before you paint watercolor? Depending on what I'm doing, I normally go with a really light regular graphite pencil, like a 4H, a 6H, something super, super light, or I use a water-soluble graphite. If it's going to be a darker watercolor, then I go with the water-soluble graphite. If it's a little bit lighter, I usually don't want the graphite to smudge so much. Like the water-soluble graphite can blend in. Let's say if I'm mixing yellow, it'll gray up the yellow because that will mix with it. If it's a dark painting, that doesn't matter, and those lines will get mixed out completely. But on a light painting, I don't want that mixing together, so then I typically go with like a 4H regular pencil. Let's see. Can you mix Inktense with Dr. Martin's ink? Martin's inks. I know I have their one, the white, the Doc Martin's PH, whatever their white is, that you absolutely could. With Inktense, you could even paint white acrylic on top of it, and that would work. So where I normally say don't use that with colored pencil, with Inktense, it's a water-based product. You could put white acrylic highlights if you wanted to. But yeah, they should be compatible. Emma said, I've heard you say Inktense products are not light fast, but Derwent's chart rates the blocks quite well. Why would adding water affect the light fast properties? Why wouldn't water do the same to watercolor? So that was something a lot of people were talking about early on, and it doesn't seem to be an issue. The type of water you use, I think, would be an issue, and that's why I use distilled tonight. Using the tap water, that is a concern, but that would be a concern for a watercolor as well. But when I had asked, what happened was I was in direct contact with Derwent at the time, and so when I asked them about that, they didn't know. I'm like, well, if they don't know, I'm not going to go by that, but they've later said it was fine. Somebody said they later said it was fine. I don't even remember where I got that information, but I've never had any of them fade. I've not had a problem with that with the ones that were displayed. And a lot of the colors are light fast, absolutely. Not all of them. And you saw the way my setup was. There were so many blocks that would be very difficult to keep track of which one was which and to know which one was light fast. So that's why I don't, unless I wanted to separate them all to start with, which I don't. That is why I'm more picky on whether or not I will sell those. But yeah, a lot of them are light fast, and adding the water, from what I understand now, won't make a difference. We weren't sure before, that was why. Okay. Where was I? Alice said, what are your thoughts on learning art from books versus videos? There are a lot of famous books out there like Color and Light, Drawing the Right Side of the Brain, Keys to Drawing. I think they're both beneficial. I think there are some amazing books. There's some terrible ones too. I think there's some amazing art lesson videos, and there's some terrible ones too. I would say there's more bad art videos than bad art books. Probably, because I think that it's too easy for anyone to make a video, and I have seen some horrible advice on videos. But then again, I've read some horrible advice in books, but more so in videos. But no, I mean, if you've got a good video versus a good book, they're both valuable. I think that they're both great. And that Color and Light book, it's one of the ones I don't have many hard copy books because I'm weird about not wanting a bunch of stuff, but which is weird because I'm not a minimalist. I don't want to clean and organize more stuff. But anyway, that's one of the books I have. Let's see. EOS Love said, hi Lisa, how do you go about using watercolor pencils? That's kind of like asking, how do you drive a car? Like, I wouldn't even know how to answer that in a question. I've got lots of videos using them, so I will refer you to the watercolor. I mean, you just shade and then you add water. You're gonna have to go watch a video. That is way too involved to answer into a quick question. Rebecca said, we have an African gray lesson. Are you asking for an African gray lesson, or you have an African gray named lesson? I don't know. Sam Desart said, I have an issue where I use Inktense and they look dull, almost chalky. Is something I'm doing wrong? If you're adding a lot of white to it, the white definitely will start to look chalky. But yeah, I mean, in general, they're a very matte finish. You're not going to get a high gloss, shiny look. That's one of the things I like so much about them being matte. They photograph so perfectly. Like the photograph looks exactly like the original artwork, which can be difficult when working with acrylics or something that's shiny. But I mean, mine's not, well, this is overexposed a little bit over here. Mine's a little bit darker than that. But anywhere, if you're mixing white to lighten your colors, that is the wrong thing. If you are mixing white to lighten your colors, then I need to get rid of this because that's going to be an issue. We don't need to see that anymore. Hold on. Nope, that goes away. Okay, there we go. If you are using white to lighten up your colors and you're mixing it, that will always come out looking chalky, like always, because that white is a very chalky look. So that might be part of the problem too. Dolphin Soul said, how hard are you pressing the pencil? Because my white Inktense never comes out that strong. If I have a ton of layers on my base, the white doesn't show up as much. It's almost like the paper's too smooth. There have been times where I put like 5, 6, 7 layers and the white did not show up as much. So that may be what's happening to you. In that case, switch over to the white Inktense block and paint on the detail like you saw me do the white highlights there. That will always show up because I've had that happen too. Art of Raven D said, your live stream gives me the itch to spend some of my tax return on a new set of Inktense. I mean, I'm not gonna say you shouldn't. They're really fun. Oh, and we have a super chat came from Not Happening that apparently I missed. Super chat from Not Happening. I don't know. Boys, did you hear that there was a super chat I missed? Oh, you guys are out. Are you just too full? Do you guys want a super chat? I guess that's a yes. Did you get a super chat? Thank you. See, thank you. Oh my gosh, we're almost out of these. I have to buy more. I keep saying that that's maybe what I was thinking of. I needed to shop this weekend. No, back up. There you go. Good boys. There you go. Good boys. Okay, go lay down. Lay down. Say thank you for the super chat. Lay down. Keep going. You're not going to stand here and stare at me. I mean, it's a good try. Okay. Does that show me? No. Whoops, hold on one second. Okay, and then it looks like we finished our auction. Let me double check something really quick. Auction ended. Okay, I think Dolphin Soul got her painting. So congratulations. And let me know if you wanted the white or the black matte. Yeah, I do think that they're both in a treat coma right now. Let's see. I think we're caught up. The boys say thank you, not happening. I totally missed that because I had my screen. There it goes. I found it. Feed the puppies. Okay. And I think, are we all wrapped up? Did I get everything, all the questions? So I need to, if you've got suggestions, let me know what you want to see for next week. You can let me know because I know we're going to wrap this up. You can let me know over on MeWe or Instagram if you've got suggestions, subject matter, and medium that you would like to see me draw or paint. We've got our art groups over on MeWe and Facebook. I'm personally more active in the one on MeWe because I don't really use Facebook much because Facebook. Tessa says, a bedtime treat. Boys, Tessa got you a super chat. You want a super chat, Gibson? Gibson. Say thank you, Tessa. We're just going to finish this bag off, huh? I think that was the last one in here. Oh, two more. See, thank you to Tessa. Was this so good? Oh, thank you. Thanks, Wade. That is special. There was a lot of drool involved in that one. I will not be touching the artwork until I wash my hands, that's for sure. Say thank you to Tessa. That gave you extra drool, huh? Okay, go lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Thank you guys so much for joining. Make sure to, oh yeah, Baby Panda said next week, can we use your new oil pastels? Absolutely. That is what we will. Oh, I have to find a subject matter to do. Yes, we will. I think I've wanted to do clouds for some reason. Clouds, I also really wanted to do cherries. I've got a few things I want to do, but yes, yes, it will be something in oil pastels for sure. Thank you guys for joining. Make sure to check out the moderators channel. They've got art channels here on YouTube. Links are in the video description for Joseph, Nick, and Clark Fine Art. My brain was just like, name, channel. Those are all listed there. Thank you again so much for joining, and I'm trying to think, how about cherries floating on clouds? I think that's a bit much for a live stream. I don't think I would get all that done. Are we good? Is there anything I'm forgetting? I know there's more I wanted to talk about, but whatever. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I'll see you next week. Maybe, if I find my buttons.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I see all your unused art supplies over there. Oh my god, those brushes aren't even opened yet. Tragic. You keep buying new fancy materials, but you don't use them because you don't want to waste them. Stop making your art supplies sad. Sign up for art lessons for as little as $4 a month. There are over 300 painting and drawing lessons available when you sign up, and new ones every week. Patreon.com/Lachri.